Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to provide a virtual update about the progress of the Whitman School. This is an annual thing we do, actually kind of biannual. This is in particular for the fall 2024 semester. And I'd say the common theme that we'll have throughout my comments today is that the Whitman School is truly on the rise. And those of you who've listened to me before have seen um, a lot of the positive trajectory and the forward momentum that we've had over the last couple of years, and we've seen that once again across a variety of areas that impact the Whitman School. What I'm going to do today is talk about a few different areas, highlighting some of the key aspects of our performance, and also highlighting some areas where we want to continue to improve. And then towards the end, I'll mention the Whitman 2030, our transformation plan as we continue to ascend into academic excellence. But again, the key theme and the recurring area of what I'm going to be talking about today is Whitman continuing its upwards rise and its ascent into better performance from before. So one of the key things that we've emphasized this past year is really operationalizing and using better utilizing our building space. Those of you who've been in the building have clearly seen the transformation taking place over the past few months, most noticeably here in the Flom Grand Hall. So what you see here is a picture from our dining etiquette, which we did with the first year students. But what you should also notice there is not only the very large orange wall, but the 28-foot screen that we now have for multiple purposes. What you don't fully see, though, in that Flom Grand Hall is the removal of planters, removal of what basically look like overhead lights that you see on the road. And we've removed those to really turn this into a multifunctional open space. But you still start to see some of the new furniture that we've put in that you can kind of see stacked in the back, but also along the walls and throughout the space, making this much more usable for students. So you can see the cafeteria or the cafe style seating there with electrical outlets and being able to connect in to this main almost living room style. I really like this event where you have the etiquette dinner. I'll talk about that in a few seconds. But the Flom Grand Hall transformation is just one of the key areas that we've changed throughout our building. We've updated our painting throughout the building. We've updated carpets. We've updated a number of suites. And part of where we're going is that we are a 20-year-old building, and we really wanted to make sure that we had a fresh, vibrant, but also kind of classical style and feel to the building, and making sure that it's one that when students come in, they feel a sense of pride and ambition about a school that's clearly on the rise. So I took this as one of the many pictures that we have of the multiple improvements we made to the building. Some I mentioned, others that I hadn't mentioned, including the improvements to the security, having cameras, having greater accessibility. A lot of these types of improvements that we should be continuing to make on a regular basis to our building and the main area where our students learn. Want to briefly talk about the fall incoming class. This year was another successful year for our incoming class. At the undergraduate level, we had the second largest incoming class in history, and that is 550 true first-year students. And in addition to that, we had a variety, almost 100 other transfer students, and those transfer students come from across campus, but also from outside colleges, so outside of the Syracuse area by and large. Now, with that, those of you who are alumni from many years ago will think that that is very large, and is. That's really the second largest class, and you can start to feel the energy in the building. The interesting thing with that is we're able to also maintain very high, strong academic readiness of the students that we came in. So when you look at areas like their students' GPA and SAT scores, we're still doing really well there. And so even though we're growing with quality. And it's interesting because the number of applications continues to increase for Whitman. So we grew by another 10% in applications this year to having over 7,700 applications for first-year students to our undergraduate program. And I think that also suggests and underscores the value of Whitman's education and others around the country viewing us as the best place for young people to come and pursue their business education. I mentioned academic readiness, but we also see very impressive levels of leadership, community engagement, being on sports teams, being in other types of students councils, involved in the community. We have military students, we have students who are entrepreneurs, just as overly impressive cohort of students who joined us here a couple weeks ago on campus. When we're talking about the MBA and the Master of Science classes, the graduate program, we saw a smaller group this year. One of the areas that we noticed was a strong decline in international students. And this is not a Whitman specific effect. We've seen this across campus and across the country as we've seen increased competition in international markets, as we've seen some difficulties in job placement, and also other issues from the practical level, like difficulties getting a visa. We saw that overall that the impact was that the number of international students declined. With the students we had really strong academic readiness in terms of GPA for their standardized test scores, but we also saw really good levels of work experience and ability to do well. So overall, the classes that we brought into the Whitman building have been really exceptional, have been strong, and what we've seen because of that is high levels of student engagement, where students are really actively involved in a lot of the programming that we're offering. They're here in the building with regularity, and so you see a vibe and a lot of energy that comes along with having such large classes. You basically have a packed building with students who really want to be here. Um, One of the other things that's a hallmark of business schools is job placement. And this is for students who at graduation have success. And success is measured in a number of different ways, but for many, that is actually getting a job. Depending on what program you're in, whether it's a graduate level or undergraduate level, we tend to look at these at two different times. Undergraduate, we normally look at about 6 months after graduation, but for some rankings measurements, we also look at a 3-month graduation, which is a 90-day placement rate. Um, for graduate, we tend to only look at the 90-day placement rate, and I'm pleased to report that we had another great year. At the undergraduate level, we had starting salaries that are higher than we've ever had before. We had over 91% of our students getting jobs, again, 90%, 90-day placement. Once we get to the 180-day placement, that's going to go up even higher, back to our normal kind of 94 to 96 level. But at the 90-day, placement rate being in the 90s is very, very impressive. And importantly, the starting salaries has also gone up. We're now our average starting salary for undergraduates is 72,500 and change. And that is about a 5% increase over where we were last year, which is very impressive for when you think about 21-year-olds starting their careers. Having an average salary of 72,500 and a little bit more is very good. At the MBA level, where we really track this as an included in rankings, we had another banner year for starting salary. Average starting salary was a record of 138,000, which is over a 50% increase of where we were last year. That was certainly influenced by a number of students who had amazing job offers and being able to get their success with great starting salaries well into the six figures. Prior years had been in the 80s, and so this is going up to 138 is very impressive, and where we're going to continue to hopefully aspire to be in the future. One of the downsides of the MBA placement rate was that we had difficulties again placing international students. This is again not a Whitman specific thing, but we're seeing across the board that this is becoming increasingly difficult to place some of our MBA students who come from outside of the U.S. But overall, it's a successful story for our job placement. We've also really emphasized industry connectivity this year. And what that means is as we think about any top business school being able to connect to industry leaders, bringing in top-notch speakers, and really showing that what we're doing in the classroom and in the building connects to industry is key. So we've had a number of things, even just in the last few weeks, that have really been important. Just this past week, we had the second annual Q's 50 Alumni Entrepreneur Awards, where we brought founders back who are from all across campus, different schools on campus, to celebrate the fastest growing alumni businesses. And with that, we had, more than half of them actually attend the event, which was a gala event on Thursday night. And then on Friday, a full day of working with students and our student entrepreneurs. Now, what we were able to do is we were able to provide inspiration, but a lot of information about how these successful entrepreneurs were able to start their business, grow their business, and deal with other important areas of being an entrepreneur, whether it's raising money and financing, marketing, growing their business, dealing with mental health, among a variety of activities. For the student day on Friday, we had over 375 student entrepreneurs register. And so it shows kind of the level of impact that we're able to do when we bring back such great entrepreneur leaders. About a month ago, we had the 75th annual Salzburg Memorial Lecture Program. I said that correctly, 75th annual Salzburg Memorial Lecture Program. And this is in particular for our supply chain management program. With that, we were able to spend a full day with industry leaders and connecting students in. We had keynote speakers from Toyota, from Moeller-Maersk, and also the Good Jobs Institute, as well as a lot of academic speakers later that same day and even the day after, focusing on their academic research. But this is another area that Whitman tends to excel, and that's the supply chain program, which is really the oldest in the country. So being able to connect in industry leaders and hearing about some of the top companies in the world, such as Toyota, was wonderful. And then again, within the last 2 weeks, we've brought in other types of organizations to work with our students. We've had the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors working with our real estate club, and they had multi-hour event here in the building working with our growing and very popular real estate program. We also had the Turnaround Management Association here in the last few weeks to offer panel discussion and connecting our students who want to get into organizational turnarounds and organizational improvements through entrepreneurship, connecting those industry leaders from the New York State branch with our students. So these are just a few of the examples of some of the outside programs that we brought in to help our students and help the Whitman School connect to industry. We also last year launched our Impact Speaker Series. We had a variety of speakers last spring, including a first one from Micron to reflect our growing partnership with them. And just recently, about a couple of weeks ago, we had the CIO of Coca-Cola, Neeraj Talmare. Neeraj spoke about all the work that Coca-Cola is doing as leaders in the field, thinking about artificial intelligence, data analytics, and other topics that really you would expect from a leading global firm at the cusp of working with technology. So we had a packed house for Neeraj. We had Jim Boeheim earlier this year talking about leadership, team building, and overcoming challenges. So these are the types of speakers that we'd like to bring in with regularity to make sure that our students have exposure to really cutting edge types of work that's happening in industry. Obviously, a central part of what we're doing is the student experience. And I also had access there as a university and as a school that wants to be welcoming to all, providing equitable access and making sure that all of our students have access to the same types of resources and same type of experience is a goal for us. This semester has been a successful one. One of the things that we announced a few weeks ago was the creation of the Opportunity Fund, which is thanks to the very generous support of alumni and donors. We're able to create a fund that will support students in their ability to seek and receive internships, especially in metro areas where perhaps their pay as an intern does not match the cost of living. And so through funding to support that internship, being able to provide funding for students who face unexpected emergencies, whether they're due to change in family status, whether they're due to emergencies they faced on campus, such as accidents or theft or anything like that. But importantly, also access and funding to be students. So really covering a lot of the day-to-day activities that allow students to get that full Whitman experience. So we're very appreciative of that funding. We've pushed it out to students. We've talked about it. So students who do need that additional funding of financial support to make sure that they get their most here on campus, we want to make sure we're able to do that. And that's a big part of our access. In terms of student experience, we've done a major push for case competitions. We had an on-campus case competition a few weeks ago that was predominantly focused on graduate students. We had 59 students participate. We've been sending students to competitions around the country. Last week, we sent students to Boston, and a few weeks ago, we sent students to Duke to compete in an MBA case competition. And I'm pleased to report that our team actually won and did an amazing job. So this is 2 years in a row that we've now had case competition teams representing Whitman that have won top school national level competitions. So as we continue to push this out across the variety of different majors that we have, we're going to hear more about Whitman's performance compared to their peers in this important area of case competitions. We've also been pushing out a lot of the work on artificial intelligence. Those of you who've been following kind of Whitman in the news have seen that we provided training to our faculty, our staff to get them certified in Gemini, which is the Google the Google artificial intelligence tool, so paying for them to get that certification. But we also pushed that out to students. So as soon as we launched that, we saw an increase in students. This is enrollment. This is something that we're continue to push as we work with our faculty to make sure that artificial intelligence is not viewed as something that's scary for the future, but rather something that's integrated into our curriculum, where we provide the tools and the training for students to be able to learn how to more successfully do prompts, to ethically use artificial intelligence, but also see that advantage of that tool. And part of that's also making sure that having students not use artificial intelligence for things that they should be using on their own, which might constitute an academic integrity violation. So as we continue to increase our work in this area, part of that is training to make sure that our faculty and staff are up to speed with the latest, greatest, but importantly, making sure that our students have access and support to be able to get those tools to help them improve their efficiency, and also be familiar with how how those tools would be worked in industry. We continue to roll out, more programming as part of our Goodman Impress program. I mentioned the etiquette dinner at the top of my comments. It's always one of the best activities for our students, but really making sure that our co-curricular things that we offer outside of the classroom, that training is highly relevant and certainly current to support our students in their personal and their professional development. So a lot of the work that we've continued to do in this area has become signature for Whitman, that as students are choosing between the Whitman School and other competing business schools, the Impress program really stands out as a differentiator. Another thing that we've continued to do and expanded is the opportunity to take global courses. And these are courses that go outside of what we offer throughout our SU Abroad programming. So just in this coming few months, we'll be offering courses in Costa Rica, in Korea, and in Kenya, where we're also in discussions and having even more places. And importantly, these are short-term global experiences that help to complement and differentiate our offerings compared to what other schools are doing, but importantly, going to places that we couldn't normally get through our SU Abroad program. We've continued to expand our Whitman in New York City courses. We have 6 courses that are going to be on the docket for that week in early January. Those are already sold out. We have waiting lists for all of them. And as we continue to expand those into marketing, real estate, alternative investments in finance, entrepreneurship, consulting through our accounting advisory work, among others, we're really seeing that there's increased demand to be in New York City to connect our students with successful alumni, our corporate partners, and really making sure that they get the most of cutting edge business education. We've also expanded our career exploration trips. Last year, we expanded to Washington, D.C., Boston, Silicon Valley, as well as the 10 programs that we had in New York City. We continue to grow those and make sure that our students who want to go can have greater access to those. And that's reflecting students of all different majors. This year, we launched an MBA mentoring program, being able to help support our students, especially those who are looking for jobs who need help, including our international students, to really help make sure that we can navigate a lot of the perhaps unspoken rules and issues related to preparing yourself for job search, dealing with interviews, resume success, and a variety of other topics that only MBA alums really can provide. So I'm really delighted that we've been able to get up and running. And from what I can tell, our mentoring programs are off to a great success. We've also continued our first generation student programming. We have a variety of programming supporting those students whose parents did not go to college. And that's through faculty mentoring, staff mentoring, but also creating resource groups for our students from multicultural backgrounds who are looking for additional information, but even their parents, to make sure that the parents are up to date with what's going on in the school and have the resources, information they need to best advise their students. A few years ago, we launched the NAS Mental Health Initiative. We've had a number of great programming supporting our students who are looking to have greater guidance and support when it comes to work-life balance, dealing with success, and other tools that we know are so important for their professional success, but otherwise don't really fit into a natural curriculum. And we're also into the second year of our Panache Local Leadership Initiative, really connecting our students who want to stay in Central New York or in the Syracuse area after graduation, to make sure that they're connected to alumni, connected to business leaders, and really learning about the opportunities that are available for those students here in Central New York after graduation. I mentioned rankings that we're really doing well and that we're a school on the rise. We've had a number of outstanding rankings and accolades from industry this year. Um, for our undergraduate program, we're ranked number 40 by U.S. News. This is one of the rankings organizations we follow for undergraduate programs. That number 40 is, certainly a step up from where we were before, but also probably Whitman's top ranking in about 15 years. So as we continue to rise, this U.S. News one is one of the ones that we follow. So number 40 is something we're certainly very proud of. For our work in the MBA market, we are ranked as the number one in the country in return on investment among private schools and number two overall. And what that really shows is the quality of the education that our students are getting and the ability for them to really return any of the opportunity costs from giving up on their careers and coming to Syracuse and the costs involved in pursuing an MBA really are truly worthwhile. In some of our other programs, we were ranked number two in the world. That's number two globally in entrepreneurship research. Once again, that shows the excellence of our entrepreneurship program. We were among the very first entrepreneurship programs in the country, so it's delightful to see not only their academic side, the number two global ranking, but also the programmatic rankings being ranked number 13 for undergraduate education. So again, our entrepreneurship program continues to do very well. Our online MBA program is also doing increasingly well on the rankings, where we're recently ranked number 21 in the country for that online MBA. And I mentioned our supply chain program before. It really is a great part of our school. They were recently ranked number 22 by Gartner. And so overall, we have a variety of programs that are really doing well from national rankings and accolades. And I think each of these programs are areas where we can continue to show our pride for the future. And as I think about the future, one of the things that we've done over the last few months is launched our transformation plan, which we're calling Whitman 2030. In many schools, we have an academic strategic plan. We're really calling this a transformation plan, simply because part of where we need to go is thinking about some of the structural and systematic improvements that we need to make sure that we can achieve our potential. And that really is becoming a top 25 business school, especially for the undergraduate program. So knowing that those are the aspirations that we're going to continue to look for and make improvements to, we wanted to have a transformation plan that speaks to that. While I'm not going to share all the details of this strategic plan, I will share some of the framework that we did. So over the past few months, we had over 100 faculty and staff, advisory board members, students, and a lot of others providing feedback into where we need to go. And what we decided and looked at the framework is really substantial investments and improvements in two areas. In these areas, we broke into areas where we need to be much more competitive to achieve kind of a competitive parity, but compared to other schools in that top 25 range. So I'm kind of viewing these as key improvements to really, for example, enhance the facility and the physical learning environment. So I mentioned our picture in Flom Grand Hall and a lot of the other building improvements. A lot of what I didn't show you is what we're hoping to do in the classroom to making sure that it's a cutting edge environment in a 20-year-old building that involves, virtual space, making sure that students have the tools and access to group rooms and other support that we hope to have them hope to have them have, where we're looking to expand and diversify our students. We're still predominantly reliant on students from the Northeast. That's our bread and butter. But as we look to demographic changes, the enrollment cliff that we know are coming for that'll negatively impact enrollment, we need to systematically diversify where we pull students from, including in areas where there's growing populations, but where we don't pull all that many from. Many of those are kind of in the South and the Southwest, but in some cases also in the Midwest. So looking to diversify our enrollment geography. Also dealing with a lot of internal aspects, including better leveraging the resources that we have through stronger financial management, through the creation of dashboards, through the creation of a number of systems to use the funding that we have more efficiently and managing our processes in a more entrepreneurial way. And importantly, as a top-ranked business school, making sure that the faculty work in their thought leadership and our ability to influence practice are really well communicated, that we can track and increase those in a more systematic way. So when we're talking about areas where we're going to make improvements and certainly become much more aligned with a top 25 business school, those are those four key areas. And the other areas that we want to, truly emphasize and really be leaders in the field are these areas that I'm referring to as differentiators. And that's really elevating the academic and student experience. At the end of the day, this is central to what we do and where we really need to make key improvements to making a much more personalized experience, bringing in industry even more, making sure that the skills and tools that we have in place are cutting edge to make sure that what we're doing aligns with industry needs, among other types of things. And I think these are areas where we're already doing very well. I mentioned the Impress program, but we really need to continue to invest in those areas to make sure that they're true differentiators as students pick from Whitman and other schools. I also mentioned placement rates, where we've had very high placement this past year. But when we look at the top 25 schools, we know that's a level above. And so we're going to continue to invest and improve our career services and our placement team, whether it's on the employer relations side, um, or bringing in those top companies that we really want to be working with, to making sure that we have much more time for personalized service and individualized support, leveraging more technology as part of career services, and really helping to continue to ensure a top-notch quality as we continue to scale. Leading business schools also invest heavily in experiential learning and pedagogy, and that is much more applied learning as opposed to, kind of sitting and getting theoretical lectures. And so we have a lot of great plans to truly expand and leverage a lot of the experiential learning we're already doing. I mentioned the case competitions before, that's one area, but really making sure that we're providing unique project-based learning experiences, connecting with industry, bringing in new virtual tools like such as virtual reality into the classroom, and making sure that throughout that student's entire experience with Whitman, that they're really having applied project-based and experiential learning. We also need to better tell our story. So as we think about telling the Whitman story, all the good things that are happening, implementing our brand and reputation management really is a key area. So as we continue to invest in our marketing communications team, part of it is making sure that we're able to share with other people what we're doing. And we also need to pay for this. And so we're elevating our fundraising efforts. We've been able to bring in some great new team members already and restructure our fundraising and our alumni engagement office. And that engagement office also is important to work together with our alumni, to making sure that we're connecting to people who are successful, who can help share their knowledge, share their wisdom back with students. Mention the mentoring network. That's one area where engaging our alumni really works together. So our team has been working for a few months on this. We've been able to kind of launch the transformation plan, where we were able to say this is what best in class looks like for each of these areas, being able to define goals and actions, but also the KPIs, the metrics that we'll use to track our progress along these areas. So as we continue to grow and expand, a lot of these areas will certainly be areas that I'm providing reports on and updates on in the future. And to be able to achieve our success, to be able to move back into the top 25, Whitman really needs your help. I'm finding more and more in my third year as dean that this is a team effort, that academics it relies on help from a variety of people, alumni, staff, faculty, students, parents, a lot of people. And so if you're willing to help support, we really need help in placing students, getting students internships. I mentioned a couple times international students in particular having challenges. So if your firm is able to offer opportunities and internships for international students, we're definitely looking for your help. We're also looking for your assistance in mentoring, judging case competitions, entrepreneurship competitions, and even in some cases, just having one-on-ones with students to be able to provide your industry experience and your background, to making sure that we can provide the best support for our students. As we expand our experiential learning, we want to make sure that we have real projects from industry where your companies need help, where we can use this as an opportunity to support student learning, but also of benefit to your companies. And this is where it really is a win-win, where we have amazing students who are going to make, again, on average, 72,000 and change per year, but you can get this done for free. And so leveraging their skills and talents is a good opportunity for your company to get access to top talent, but also students being able to apply their work. We're also looking for, connections with top companies, whether it's for speakers, whether it's for employment opportunities, that as we think about the types of areas where Whitman should be placing students, being able to connect with those top employers that will help our brand, help our reputation, would certainly make a big difference for us. And importantly, as you're talking about the school, we'd love your help attracting further terrific students, faculty, industry connections, and being able to make sure that we sell the success of Whitman and talk about all the great things happening and helping that to attract that next generation of students, faculty, and staff. And for some of you who maybe don't have those connections, we're very happy to have the financial support. Scholarships always allow students to have access to Whitman who perhaps come from needs where scholarships really make a difference to them. We talked about the Opportunity Fund, and those are those abilities to support students who need to get the most out of their time at Whitman. A lot of that can also be done through the Dean's Fund, where we prioritize student learning, student access, and making sure that Whitman remains innovative, such as through those global courses. And depending on your background, depending on your preferred major, we can always use help providing programs, opportunities, experiential learning, making sure that what we're offering is at the cutting edge. So all of these areas, we'd be appreciative of any of your help to help shape our success for the future. So once again, I'm delighted to share this brief update of all the great things going on at Whitman. When I say that Whitman is on the rise, there's a variety of proof points. There's so many factors that contribute to our success, but hopefully my brief remarks here can show you that across a variety of different areas of our program and of our school, we're really doing well. And I look forward to working with you to achieve our goals that are set out in the Whitman 2030 document. So at this stage, I will stop sharing my slides. You get to see me even more in my office. I know we've been asking people to put in questions into the Q&A, and so I'm going to open that up now. And so I'll be able to deal I'll answer these one at a time. So I have a question from Walter who asked, what is next year's incoming class? What's our capacity? I think we're at capacity now. So as we think about the incoming class, we're not looking to grow past that 550. Part of where there's increased demand, we have there's certainly a student quality to be able to bring in more, but what's important to Whitman is not growing too much. I'd say one of the areas where we can maintain small class size, personalized attention, making reasonable or manageable amounts of portfolios to our academic support team, our career support team is important. And so I think that's important. So we're not looking to grow the incoming class size beyond what we currently are, but rather we're actually investing in those areas where we can make sure that we actually have more personalized attention. And so, part of what I think is an advantage of Whitman is kind of the small school feel within a big university. And I want to make sure that we don't lose that small school feel in all that we do. And I think getting too much past 550, there's a risk of doing that. And so we're not looking to expand beyond that. Next question is the salary increase unique to us, or is this something that we're seeing across the university? I think it's both. And so I say the top schools are continuing to grow their starting salaries. That data hasn't become public yet, just because we did our final audits for the 90-day. We'll see those in a few months. But what we're hearing from the market is for top talented students, companies are willing to pay, and in a job market where a lot of the top companies are looking for the very best students, which I believe Whitman students are. What we're seeing is their salary increase. So that 5% increase is beyond inflation. I think it really is a reflection of, reflection of the increased demand. Rob has a question about job placement salary. We're not on the screen. No, we will publish those. Again, with the undergraduate data, we publish those at the 180 day. So those will be out in another few months. My providing a virtual update was a starting point at the 90-day. So those are not our final numbers yet, but those are the audited 90-day. And certainly once those are out, we'll be able to publicize that. We certainly are very proud of the progress we made, and so share that with prospective students, their families, and so that'll be something that will be out there over time. We also have data based on different majors, different job sectors, types of jobs. So we have all that data. We just don't publish that at the undergraduate level until the 180-day. And then for the MBA program, those come out once we have kind of the rankings information that goes to those. So we submit those to the different rankings organizations. And so we'll be able to share that in due time. So it's preliminary. The last question here, anonymous is Whitman in the process of securing another dean, or is it me? It's me for now. So, people who know me know I've been here for 17 and a half years. I've been dean in my third year. So currently Whitman is not, to my knowledge, looking for a different dean. But what I've been asked to do is carry on together with Vice Chancellor Mike Caney, who's in the role of the executive dean. And we're going to continue along with that until we're told to stop. So right now, because I think things are going well, we're able to do that. And I'm very pleased with the progress of the team. So another one here is New York City internship. Looking to have a student who is obtaining an internship. So the source on that is the Career Center. All students are assigned a career advisor. Hopefully your student has met that person. If not, send me an email. I can make that connection. We have a wonderful Career Center team. We're able to make those direct connections. And importantly, understanding that, internships are not just about, getting anything, but really, that making sure the right type of job that matches their interest, matches their major is key as well. And so happy to connect that person to the Career Center team. We have a job posting board called Handshake, which we send a lot of students to, but also importantly, I think for us to be able to provide that one-on-one mentoring and coaching to help the student find that internship. Sorry, good. Thanks, Walter. Saw the nice comment. Appreciate your feedback. Another one, biggest drivers of school impact rankings. So undergraduate rankings, the different rankings organizations are driven by a couple of different things. The one that we follow closest is poets and quants. And the reason I like that is we have 1/3 of rankings coming from enrollment data. So basically the quality of the incoming student, and that's covered by a variety of things, not only GPA. We have 1/3 of rankings covered by the student experience, and this is from recent alums. Then we have 1/3 of the ranking coming from placement data. So all of those things are things that I think we value. We certainly emphasize that. I couldn't argue against caring about quality of students, quality of experience, or quality of placement. So those are the ones we track more closely. The U.S. News undergraduate rankings are different than the university undergraduate rankings, and also the MBA undergraduate rankings. So with the U.S. News, what the driver of that one for undergraduate is it's based on survey of leading deans from other business schools. So all of the AACSB accredited deans get surveys and they rank us. And so when we make improvements, it's because other schools are recognizing the quality of what we're doing. I mentioned us wanting to make investments into our storytelling and having other people see that. I think the improvements we're able to make there on social media, working together with other school deans, and really making sure that other leaders in higher ed see all these great things that are happening at Whitman is part of that. So, a lot of that is, let's say, it's lagging because we have to do these great things first before those schools see that. I fill out the rankings organizations and I track a lot of the kind of competitive analysis of other schools. So we have a couple of different, higher education leaders who provide input into that. So because it's kind of public perception, I view it as different than the poets and quants one, which is why I prefer the poets and quants rankings where we're 36. Because of you can track the year over year improvements to enrollment, to student experience, and to placement. So that's one of the reasons why I have that preference. There are other good rankings, but the two that we usually follow are those US News and Poets and Quants. At the graduate level, there's a variety of other rankings that we track, but US News one for MBA is one that also excuse me, tracks a variety of data points, not just public perception. Thanks very much for your kind note. At this stage, we're not getting a lot more questions. I'm kind of getting positive feedback from friends who are alumni who are really appreciative of all the things that the school is doing in the right direction to support our students, support our alumni. And again, as I mentioned towards the end of my comments, we really do appreciate your help. Anything you can do to offer, whether it's mentoring, whether it's jobs, whether it's financial contributions that allow us to really deliver the programs we're doing, everything makes a difference. And so I'm thankful for all that our alumni currently are doing and helping to support us for the future. So I don't see any other questions. So, I'll do the going, gone. If there's no other questions, again, thank you so much for chiming in. Thanks for your ongoing support. If there's anything I can do, please don't hesitate to ask or reach out. I really appreciate everything you're doing. So again, go Whitman, go Orange. Thanks very much. Have a great day.